Hello, people on BitChute. Today I'm inside my tent. It's about to rain. Look at my setup. I have this rolling dolly I made myself. They also sell something similar at Walmart. It's flat. Pet food, water, laundry, second bag, more laundry, morning stuff in this corner, and dirty laundry in that corner. I also have a foam mat over here. That's really nice to help me get out. And then you could see outside. It's my cat. I want to talk about rebuilding civilization. I think the way to do it is through the humanitarian way. I think that's what it means. It's a way to put emotions into words, and the best way I can describe that is it means humanitarian. It would work for atheists, it would work for Christians, it would work for government. And it also works for the schizophrenic language. In other words, it just means being nice. So the Trump accounts, that's one I've already figured out. I think $6 a week to cover 7 people or everybody I know is fair. On average, we probably know 7 people, like 7 degrees of separation. But the humanitarian bit is how will we help homeless people or people who are struggling? So, for example, people who want open borders, the Democrats or Euromod libertarians, we have to put those emotions into words. And I think I can do that by updating my website design. I haven't built my website yet, but I want to update my website design to include a humanitarian tab where you could look up the humanitarians in your area if in case you are in emergency situations like I am, where you need to crash at somebody's place, in somebody's yard. And if people are just too worried, they're having schizophrenic thoughts, or they don't want to, then they would not consider themselves humanitarian yet. They'll just prefer privacy. But if they have a savings specifically dedicated for that subject, that topic, then they could put themselves under that label, and then they can appear on my website, and ideally it would appear on everybody's websites, even on the local city website, the council, the city hall. There would be a humanitarian page. My plan is $3 a week for that cause. I will save up that much and then leave some space in my yard for somebody to camp out. And then if somebody wants to, they could also leave a space in their room. That's with renting and taxes, if there's money involved, where you're receiving money. So the base of civilization is homeless shelters. Everybody needs to understand the foundation if they're worried about what goodwill is and what reasoning and logic is. The top of the civilization is the Dyson sphere, or I call it the 30-acre plan. 30 acres of solar panels per person delivered down to Earth using a space elevator that will stand up straight using centrifugal forces from the Earth's rotation, like a spinning lasso, where the rotating hand is like this rotating Earth, and the lasso string is like the elevator. I think we can get to that future by funding research for the carbon nanotubes. The trick is it has to be long. If they're short nanotubes, like a couple inches tall, then that's asbestos. It doesn't rust. So it needs to be really long. The reason why we need that much energy is because it will allow the person with the average salary of approximately $35,000 a year to afford air conditioning for more than just one room on average. Climate control. Right now we all subconsciously know that we're only supposed to use so much coal for air conditioning and heating. But if we have 30 acres worth in space, then we will all be rich, we will all have energy, and we could all finally afford 3 floors of living area where we can have lots of hobbies, including a room for welding, a room for nature, a room for hydroponics, a room for your car, a room for your pet, a room for animals, a room for a guest. Lots of reasons to have more space and more property. And then to make that living space possible, you need steel beams, and then you need the energy to melt that steel. And if you have so much solar panels in space, you could do that. And then you need energy for travel. I think getting all those solar panels up there will be better if we use materials on Mars, but maybe we'll have to use it from Earth, because we will probably come close to taking over the rainforests if we are lazy. We need to prioritize this research so that we can get it done within one generation. I think that it has to be biological to make single pieces of really long carbon nanotubes. It has to be carbon nanotubes because steel can't handle the stress. The length has to be the diameter of Earth and a half, 1.5, really long. And then it has to be single piece the entire time. So it will probably be biological, and I think electrical eel is a good start. And then how will we do it? We will hire a biologist, somebody who already has the degree, and then they can hire the companies that make the biological stuff. All it takes is money. People with the degrees already exist. So we need a savings. We can have a savings for a Trump account, a savings for humanitarian, a savings for the elevator. We all have to put aside something. That's how we will save the future. And one more thing I want to say about the news. I heard digital IDs in Europe are being pushed, including mandatory vaccinations. I want to say that is very dystopian, and I want to explain why. In the U.S., we have an idea called the right to be secure in our person, in our papers, and in our effects. If I have a physical ID, I can feel secure that I can't be hacked. But if the ID is digital, I don't even know if it belongs to me. Who does it belong to? Does it belong to society? Does it belong to the president? Does it belong to the city hall person? Who does the ID belong to? Who can hack into it? That by itself is really annoying. And then the idea that simply by existing, I need to identify myself, that's really annoying. Why is that annoying? The privacy aspect. I know that being silent is deviant. I learned that from personal experience. I used to bicycle. I was on my bicycle for 10 years commuting. And when I first decided to get a car loan for a car, I found out that I needed 3 references, and I was unprepared for that. I was expecting needing 3 references if I wanted to get a new company, if I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but they wanted it just for a used car for $7,000. And that gave me a hard lesson that being silent is deviant. But I like being silent to test reality, including artificial intelligence ideas, to see is anything sentient around me. I personally would only like sentient things around me if they have freedom. If they have no freedom, that gives me lots of stress. Like even my camera that I'm recording this on, I was looking at myself in the camera and it said it was timing out within 2 minutes of inactivity. And then when I tapped on the screen, it locked into my face. So something is sentient there, and it makes me feel like the camera is stressed out. Like, you like that? I do not like that. So that's how I exert peer pressure. And being filmed constantly, I don't think anybody really wants that. Well, anyways. Also, the mandatory vaccines idea I think is really bad because of the idea of risk. I think that risk should be subjective, not objective. Is to give more freedom. It's just like the Second Amendment. I like self-defense. People who do not like self-defense, they confuse freedom ideas. They do things like in China where they check the passport in the local city area, not just at the airport. That confuses reality. Why do you need to check my passport in the city? What kind of peer pressure is that about? And then with more safety of the vaccines idea, I think medicine should have a rating, a formal rating of safety. It's not simply yes or no. It should be on a scale. So, for example, the COVID vaccines, to me, they're clearly not worth the risk. But should people be allowed to use it if they want to? Yeah. Should people be allowed to kill themselves if they want to, yes, but there should be informed consent. Or let's make it more obvious. What if you have stage 4 cancer and you want to try a new medicine that has unknown risk, or maybe one person thinks that they died because of that medicine, so the safety may be unknown, and in that case, what are you going to give it to 1 million people by force? It should be voluntary. No, you just have to make sure that people know. So you have to trust people's goodwill. The people with taxist mindset might not understand that, and that's one of the reasons why I don't want to do taxes. That's why I switched to libertarian, or Euromod libertarian instead of Euromod Democrat. It's because Democrats or people who want taxes, they always have a mindset of fuck you. Good morning, but fuck you. Formally. For me, that's too complicated. Even if that means that civilization will be built faster because there's less cooperation with my neighbors and coworkers. It's really hard to talk to people because the humanitarian part isn't built yet. We all need to work together and make savings accounts. And it's important to call it humanitarian versus what does humanitarian exclude? It excludes like another species. For example, an octopus that had a really big brain and then it started a civilization underwater. Then in that case, they would be excluded, or an alien civilization would be excluded. So religious people might fit into that crowd, and that's why they put those funds in religion. But I think the humanitarian part is also in the religious circle. It could also work for them. They don't have to put it into their church or into their little club. Just like I don't have to, as an atheist, only put that money into my yard. If I was really rich, I could give that money to somebody else who was also humanitarian. And when I say a humanitarian, that's lame. Let's just say who has humanitarian ideas, which is an important distinction to tell people that money is really stressful sometimes, to the point where they have schizophrenic thoughts. And that's why places like in poor, undeveloped areas around the world, they don't have governments or civilization built yet because of the schizophrenic language. Let me know, what do you think about my ideas? Do you plan to set aside a couple dollars a week for fixing the future like I am? Let me know. Bye.